Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about estate division. Now it's a pretty lengthy process, so we're actually going to divide this up into part 1 and part 2. Now off to the side here, you can see the total value fair share item 1, this list right here. These are all the different steps in order to divide up an estate, but because of the fact of the length of this process, we're only going to be talking about the total value and the fair share for this particular part. So let's go ahead and get started. What you have here is you have a whole bunch of information written in a table format. But before we go ahead and start dealing with the actual numbers in the table, let's go ahead and talk about how everything is laid out. If you notice here, the heirs, John, Blake, Tom, and George, are written off to the left, and the car, the boat, and the painting, the items of the estate, are written and on the top into the column format. Now the way you would read this is that John believes, and let me stop using that highlight, that just kind of looks bad after a while. So let me get rid of some of this here. Hold on. Oops. Technology run amok. Here we go. All right, excellent. All right, so the way that you would actually read this is that John believes that the car is worth $5,000. That is his bid. He believes that the boat is $1,000 and the painting is worth $500. So each row belongs to each individual heir. Whereas Blake believes the car is worth $6,000, the boat is worth $9,000, and the painting is worth $450, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is each heir's individual idea of what these items are worth. Now, another thing I want to bring to your attention is the account, or the bank account, which has $10,000. This $10,000 is very important because the very first step, let's go back to this first slide here, is when you are finding the total value of the estate, you have to add each heir's individual bids plus the amount of cash that's in the estate. So all of the bids plus the cash, and what that's going to give you is the total value of the estate. So the total value. Okay, and you're doing this with every single heir. So Blake's bids are going to be added along with the cash. And the reason why you are adding the cash to everybody's bids is because you are trying to get a total value of what that heir thinks the estate is worth. Okay, so that's why the $10,000 is constantly being repeated in all of the total bids. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video so we can go ahead and get all these calculations pretty quick. So hold on. Okay, I'm back. I went ahead and added everything, and what you have is the total value of each heir's estimation of the estate. And just kind of a self-check here, just kind of make sure that all of the total values are somewhat in the neighborhood of each other. That just kind of makes sure, that's just kind of like a little self-check to make sure all your additions and all your adding is correct. Like, for example, let's say if we were to just play the what-if game, and let's say this ended up being, I don't know, $55,000. Now, if you notice, that's 16,000, 17, 15. All of a sudden, you have 55. That's probably an indication that you messed up. So just make sure you check your calculations to keep everything the way it should be. Okay. All right. So we're going to leave this problem. We're going to go to another problem here. Okay. So we have a new problem where we have John, Fred, and Pete. They're heirs to an estate where we have a house, car, and land. Now, in order to get the or the total value of the estate, we're going to add all of these bids up. Now, if you notice, there's no money in the bank account. So in this case, you're not actually going to be adding any cash to the account. Now, if you want to put the +0, you can. You don't necessarily have to. And so once again, we are going to add all the bids up, and we're going to get 3 individual numbers that show what each heir believes the estate to be worth. And so once again, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and you can also pause the video too to go ahead and get the calculations down. Okay, so I went ahead and did all the calculations, and we have 112,114 as well as 123. And remember, these numbers are the total value of the estate according to each heir. Once again, we're going to self-check just to make sure that all of our calculations are pretty similar. That's 112, 114, 123. That looks good. Now, remember, if you had a situation where you had like 223,000, you might want to double check your math just to make sure you're on the right track, because with this being a multi-step problem, you're going to need to make sure that your numbers are correct, your calculations are correct in step 1, because step 5 or 6 will obviously be off. All right. So we talked about our total value. Now we're going to talk about our fair share. Now the fair share is pretty much exactly how it says. It is the fair share that of money or items that is going to be distributed throughout the problem for the estate. So that kind of didn't make sense. So let me explain it this way. John believes that the account, going back to our first question, John believes that the account is $16,500. So that's what he believes the total estate to be worth. And so in his mind, he believes that the fair share, the fairest thing to do is take 16,500 and divide it by 4. Now the reason that you'll be dividing it by 4 because there are 4 heirs. And that is how you figure out your fair share. Now, the reason why that this is such a fair division type problem is because everybody's fair share is based upon their own estimates. So Blake's fair share works off of his estimate because we're going to take his amount divided by 4 and everybody else's amount. So everybody's working off of their own numbers. And so that's what keeps it fair. So if someone complains at the end of this problem that John should have gotten more money or should have gotten less money, it's all based upon John's estimates. The car, the boat, the painting, what he believes everything is worth, that's what is going to be calculated by. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and pause it so we can get a quick calculations on the fair share. And when you do get your decimals, which you probably will, go ahead and round it to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 places after the decimal point, because we are dealing with. Okay, we did our quick calculations, and that's what it ends up being. John, Blake's, Tom, George's, each of their fair shares. As you can tell, they are kind of in the same neighborhood. That's another self-check. Make sure that all the fair shares are somewhat similar. There's going to be some variation depending on their total value, but they should be somewhat in the same ballpark. And so let's go back to our other problem here, where we're actually dealing with now 3 heirs. Now, since you're dealing with 3, you're now going to be dividing by 3 because there's only 3 heirs. Okay. Now, when you're going to be dividing by 3, you're probably going to be dealing with some decimals. Once again, divide and round to the nearest hundreds place, so that would signify dollars and cents. Okay, I went ahead and did my quick calculations, and I figured out the fair share. It's all written in red here. So if you were able to get that, I'm not going to run out of room for that. Let me rewrite it. Fair share. So if you were able to get these numbers, congratulations, you're good with steps 1 and 2. Now the next video that we're going to make it's going to be part 2, and we're going to talk about the items 1, the new cash balance, bonus, and final distribution. So feel free, or not feel free, but let me encourage you to click on part 2 after looking at this video. Thank you very much.